What's going on, everybody? It's Monday, January 7. I sincerely hope you all had a great weekend. Welcome back to Foxy Games UK. I'm Fox, your source of reliable gaming news and rumour. So in today's news, Sony are planning a grand send-off for PlayStation 4 as it edges ever so closer to the hardware retirement home. And PlayStation 5 takes over the mantle. Obsolescence? Not quite yet. There's still plenty to come as the company contemplates PlayStation 4's swan song. We'll get into all of that, but first, PlayStation VR users have plenty of reasons to be happy right now, as numerous reports flood in. Sony is unveiling a brand new way to control its industry-leading virtual reality headset, PlayStation VR. But is it wireless? Does it do hands-free movement control? And how do your feet fit into all of this? All of these questions will be answered and more, courtesy of Chris Harding at pureplaystation.com. Here's the full story. So there's something inherently wrong with PlayStation VR and how Sony went about bundling it with the decade-old PlayStation Move technology. The PlayStation Move ones work fine, sure, but for games where robust movement is needed, they tend to feel very cumbersome. That's not to say they're completely useless, but in games where locomotion is mapped to the PlayStation Move controllers, it tends to be a bit of a hassle. Now, CES, the Consumer Electronics Show 2019, is already throwing up some really cool gadgets and the latest in state-of-the-art cutting-edge technology. PlayStation VR's answer for better controls enter the fray. The 3D Rudder, described as a hands-free solution for VR gaming movement. The device sits on the floor with your feet on top of it, and using your feet you control movement inside of games. It works using pressure sensors, so if you move your feet forward slightly, you'll move forward on screen. Similarly, push backwards and you'll move backwards. I think you get the picture. One slight caveat is 3D Rudder control can only be used while seated and is not designed to be stood on, handy for those with limited space and unable to make use of room-scale games. The device is already available for PC users, now coming to PlayStation VR, and in partnership with Sony, lending it some credence. The company behind the device will also be partnering with numerous developers to implement 3D Rudder into its games. According to a press release, 30 PlayStation VR games will be compatible with 3D Rudder at time of release, with more to follow in the future. Priced at around $99 for PC users, the PlayStation version will cost slightly more at $120 US. That extra $20 must be Sony's cut. I jest. No, the real reason is that the PlayStation version comes with foot bars, something that is not included in the PC package, costing an extra $19.99. So essentially, PlayStation users get the complete package. Now, the device is designed to make controlling complex schemes that come from having to use PlayStation Move for movement and interaction, and while the PlayStation VR AIM peripheral solved a lot of those problems, the AIM controller is more suited to shooter genre type games. Now, the 3D Runner should make for much better experiences on PlayStation VR. Now, to give you the heads up on the tentative release dates that are put forward by the company who manufactures 3D Runner, it's set to be hitting retail stores globally at some point this April and will support 15 games, most notably Bow to Blood and Ultra Wings. Sony promise many more games will follow. So it is rather interesting that Sony are very much committed to pushing PlayStation VR in spite of its slightly, and by Sony's own admission, underwhelming uptake. With more than a few murmurs regarding PlayStation VR Model 2 hardware in the works, reportedly capable of 240 frames per second, that's 120 frames per eye, and able to display as really at higher resolutions. PlayStation 5 integration at hardware level is also being touted by numerous sources. I guess PlayStation VR is here to stay, folks. And that's really great, having multiple options in how you digest your games should you have the cash to spare. All should be revealed at the Consumer Electronics Show 2019. So, are you a satisfied PlayStation VR customer? Are you planning on picking up the device at some point, or are you going to wait and see and really what strides in VR technology Sony have made since the current model launched? Share your thoughts in the comments. Now for the main segment of the video. There's no denying it's been a tremendous year for Sony's PlayStation 4. The best-selling exclusives in the United States and United Kingdom really was Marvel's Spider-Man and God of War, followed very closely, taking second place as detailed by the MPD Group and Yuki/GFK charts. Now the top 10 multi-platform titles of 2018, the likes of Red Dead Redemption 2, Far Cry 5, Black Ops 4 and other big hitters sold better on on PS4. The console rounded its 5th anniversary in November, celebrating 86.1 million systems sold, obliterating PS3's total install base. PS4 is currently floating around the 90 million mark and well on its way to 100 million, something I predict will happen before the end of holiday 2019. I firmly believe the closer Sony gets PS4 to the 100 million milestone, the more information we'll receive about PlayStation 5 and officially. With that being said, 2019 is being pegged to be a repeat of PlayStation 3's final year. Big hitter AAA budget titles such as premier first-party studio Naughty Dog's The Last of Us blew gamers away across the globe. Industry analysts and journalists all seem to agree PS4's swan song year is 2019, and it won't be any different this year. Now sure, people are saying Sony has plenty of gas left in the tank. There are approximately 9 exclusive yet ready to be released on PS4, 4 of which are without firm release dates, namely Dreams, The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima and Death Stranding. Now the next big PS4 exclusive is likely to be open world survival horror action game Days Gone, coming on April 26th. Now if you look at potential release windows, things don't get a whole lot better. After its reveal at PlayStation Meeting 2013, Dreams is reportedly coming to PS4 in 2019, but its official listing on the PlayStation website is to be confirmed. The same is true of Ghost of Tsushima and Death Stranding, while The Last of Us Part 2 has no official release date whatsoever. Now given what has and hasn't been seen of the latter 3, there's a glaring possibility we won't see them in 2019 at all, given much speculation added fuel if you like that Ghost of Tsushima and Death Stranding and definitely The Last of Us Part 2 will undoubtedly receive PS5 enhancements, which includes higher frame rates and higher resolutions, that sort of thing, you know. Think of those titles as cross-generational. Sony also have the PlayStation 1 remake of Medieval, which was initially announced as coming in 2019, but since that time, Medieval isn't even listed officially on the PlayStation site at all. Sony is relying heavily on existing announcements and releases from third-party developers. Some games will be true exclusives like Judgment, Catherine Full Body, and Shenmue 3. There will also be titles similar to Kingdom Hearts 3, which might be coming to other platforms, but will likely perform the strongest on PlayStation 4. The likes of Resident Evil 2, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice and Devil May Cry 5 also help to bolster and see PS4 off with the bang it deserves. Though in terms of pure exclusive titles, the PS4 feels a little light going into 2020, given plenty of reason for me to believe Sony's investment into PS4 titles will slow to a crawl next year, relying heavily on third-party titles while the company prepares to unleash PlayStation 5 and its launch titles. Perhaps Bloodborne 2 will rear its sadistic, ugly little head. Here's a quote reminder from Sony boss Sean Layden regarding PlayStation Experience 2018, E3 2019 and PS4 going into this year. Now that we have Spider-Man out the door, we're looking down into 2019 to games like Dreams and Days Gone. We wouldn't have had enough to bring people all together in the same location in North America to have an event. We don't want to set expectations really high and not deliver on it. It was a hard decision, but we have determined that this year we will not hold PlayStation Experience, said Sony Worldwide Studios chairman Sean Layden on the PlayStation blogcast. So a month later, Sony announced that it would also be skipping E3 2019 to everybody's surprise. Some took this to mean that Sony might offer another show around E3 like Electronic Arts has done this past few years, and the company shot that one down as well. Here's another quote. "We will not hold or activate a press conference around E3, PlayStation's Senior Vice President of Communications, Jennifer Clark, told Game Informer. So, essentially what you see is what you get for the most part. There's no hint of major PS4 announcements leading up to June from PlayStation. 2018 was the banner year for the company, what with Spider-Man, God of War and Red Dead Redemption 2. You have to assume 2019 will be about getting a few other titles out of the door and releasing the final onslaught of PS4 games sparingly between 2019 and 2020. Then it's bye-bye PS4, at least in terms of the sequels and new IP that you'll want to play. Those will all be going to PS5. So when are we likely to catch a glimpse of the future of PlayStation? Hint, hint. Well, I myself and other outlets have been saying for quite a while now that Sony skipping PlayStation Experience 2018 and E3 2019 is no coincidence. Those decisions were well thought out in advance. There's a method behind what many deem as utter madness of Sony skipping one of the most important events of the year, E3, notwithstanding Sony's own PlayStation Experience. And Guerrilla Games is well placed to deliver a system-selling sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn. Sony Japan Studio will have something new, as well as Santa Monica Studio working on a God of War sequel. I mean, the engine is already built and scalable to take advantage of PlayStation 5, so why not? Shouldn't take as long as God of War did either, as well as all Sony's in-house engines perfectly scalable for future hardware. Now, Polyphony Digital, being Polyphony Digital, will probably release a fully fledged numbered Gran Turismo sometime in 2026. I'm kidding, but for sure, they do like to take their sweet time about it, don't they? And Sony Ben's Days Gone is likely to get the PS5 treatment also, this in spite of it launching fairly early into this year. Now, Naughty Dog are said to be deep into The Last of Us Part 2's dev cycle, and a lot of the game is done for what I've been told, and let's be honest, they've had over 4 years working on the title, so you'd expect it to be far along, right? And Sucker Punch Studio, developer of Ghost of Tsushima, already hinted the game would be cross-generational, so that takes a lot of load off PS5's lineup. Really a little, but it'll need games of its own that you simply cannot play elsewhere to give potential purchasers the impulse to upgrade from PS4. So expect some brand new exclusive PS5 IP from Sony first, second, and third-party partners. The PlayStation 5 is rumored to be quite a significant, if not incremental, leap over PlayStation 4 Pro. PlayStation 4 uses a custom system on chip based on AMD's Jaguar architecture. Now, various reports suggest PlayStation 5 uses a discrete graphics solution, an AMD Zen Plus CPU backed by an AMD Navi GPU, and potentially GDDR6 RAM, though with GDDR6 pricing some 70 cents more expensive. The jury really is still out on that one. Sony are determined to release a system that hits 60 frames per second at 4K resolution or thereabouts. It's unlikely developers will universally use the power of PS5 to those ends, but it's a decent benchmark nonetheless. Use of similar AMD architecture allows for backwards compatibility with the PlayStation 4 and Pro, and the boost over Pro backwards compatibility and brand new feature sets would essentially allow the next PlayStation to get an early start for consumers. As early adopters, some games would be exclusive to PlayStation 5, while the hangover helps bridge the gap transitioning between generations. So in conclusion, we find ourselves at the beginning of 2019. PlayStation 4 will hit 100 million sold this year. Sony will hold numerous event reveals for PS5. Sony will release the last of its AAA PS4 IP, and third-party partners will pick up the slack until the platform is made obsolete everywhere except for developing countries, of course. And Sony will introduce the new PlayStation 5 PlayStation VR Mark II model, and will continue to get us all hyped all over again. Until such time, you can count on me to be there with you every step of the way, so keep it locked to Foxy Games UK, not least because you're all very, very sensible people. And remember, relevant links can be really found in the video's description when and where applicable. And while you're there, share your thoughts and opinions on today's news, because that unfortunately brings us to the end of another video. But let's continue the discussion in the comments. And for more regular PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch and next gen news updates, subscribe to Foxy Games UK. Remember to hit the notification bell so you never miss content. Love how that rolls off the tongue. Thumbs up if you like it here, and help us reach more like-minded gamers simply by sharing this video. And if you really like what I do, consider supporting Foxy Games UK via Patreon, and or grab yourself an FG UK branded t-shirt or hoodie merch. Available in various colours and designs, you'll find both Patreon and Foxy Games UK branded clothing links in this video's description. Appreciate all the support. And so that concludes our time together on this Monday. It was great hanging out. Until the next video, remember, play games, not corporations.